The night had already stretched deep into silence, and yet the faint glow from under Jungkook's office door told you he was still working. It wasn't surprising. Your husband Jungkook was always like this, distant, cold, and prioritizing work over everything, even himself. He rarely spoke to you unless necessary, and even then, his replies were short and emotionless. You signed and walked towards the door, knocking lightly. You pushed it open, only to find him sitting at his large desk, fingers swiftly typing on his laptop. The sight made your heart clench. "You are still working?" you asked, stepping inside. Jungkook didn't bother looking up. He responded shortly, his eyes fixed on the screen. You hesitated for a second before walking closer. "Why are you pushing yourself so hard? You have been working since morning." "It's an important file," he muttered, flipping through some papers. "I have to submit it tomorrow. I want to complete everything tonight." "Still, you haven't taken a break. It's already late. I will rest once I'm done." You signed again. "That's what you always say, but you never actually rest." Jungkook didn't respond, simply typing away. Shaking your head, you softened your voice. "At least drink something. Do you want coffee?" "No." You roll your eyes at his immediate rejection. "Tea?" "No." Your lips pressed into a thin line. It was frustrating how he always shut you out like this. You had married him knowing he wasn't expressive, but sometimes it felt like he barely acknowledged you. "Fine," you said, crossing your arms. "Just don't overwork yourself, okay?" Feeling slightly disappointed, you turned around the room, around and left the room, closing the door behind you. After leaving Jungkook's office, you signed and went straight to bedroom. You had long accepted that he wasn't the type to express himself openly. Still, sometimes you wished he would at least try, even little. Curling up under the warm blanket, you closed your eyes, the exhaustion from the day slowly pulling you into sleep. Jungkook finally leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes as he savored the final document. It was late, far too late, but at least he had finished everything. Letting out a deep breath, he shut his laptop and stretched his stiff muscles before standing up. As he walked towards the bedroom, he pushed the bedroom doors open quietly. His eyes immediately landed on your sleeping figure. The room was dimly light, and the soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminated your peaceful face. You were curled up, your hand resting near your face. Jungkook stopped for a moment, just watching you, his lips curled into a small, barely there smile. Carefully, he walked to your side and sat down on the bed, making sure not to wake you. His fingers hesitated before brushing a strand of hair away from your face. "You always take care of me, even when I push you away." His gaze softened as he looked at you. He knew he wasn't easy to be with. He was cold, distant, and terrible at expressing emotions. It wasn't because he didn't care, it was because he didn't know how. He had spent so many years keeping people at a distance that now, when he had someone who actually wanted to be close to him, he didn't know what to do. "I know you are suffering because of my cold behavior, but I promise I will change for you." Then, instead of moving away, he simply lay down beside you, resting his head on the pillow as he watched you sleep, and with that he closed his eyes, falling asleep beside you. The morning sun peeked through the curtains as you stretched, feeling the warmth of the bed still clinging to your skin. With a small yawn, you got up, rubbing your eyes before heading towards the kitchen to prepare breakfast for Jungkook. Jungkook had slept late last night, but he was always punctual. No matter how exhausted he was, he never missed his morning routine. So, after setting the table with his usual coffee and toast, you waited, but as time passed, he still hadn't come downstairs. Frowning, you called out, "Jungkook, breakfast is ready." Silence. Jungkook, still no response. Your heart sank with worry. Without wasting another second, you hurried upstairs. You pushed the bedroom door open. There he was, still in bed, lying on his side, his face partially buried in the pillow. His dark hair was messy and his usual sharp eyes remained shut, his breathing slow and heavy. "Jungkook," you called softly, walking closer. No response. Concern growing, you placed a hand on his shoulder to shake him awake, but the moment your skin touched his, you flinched. He was burning up. Your eyes widened as you quickly placed the back of your hand against his forehead. His skin was hot, too hot. "Jungkook, wake up," you said firmly, shaking him slightly. His brows frowned as he groaned, eyes fluttering open lazily. His face paler than usual. "What's the time?" he muttered, his voice rough and tired. "I have to go to the office." Your lips parted in disbelief. "You what? You have such a high fever and you are still thinking about the office?" Jungkook tried to sit up, but you immediately pressed a hand against his shoulder, stopping him. "No, you are not going anywhere. I have to submit those files," he mumbled, struggling to push your hand away weakly. "It's okay, your secretary can handle it. You already sent him the documents, right? He will take care of everything. You need to rest." Jungkook shook his head stubbornly, though his body betrayed his exhaustion. "No, I..." "Stop." You cut him off, giving him a firm look. "You are burning up. You can barely keep your eyes open. How do you expect to work like this?" Reaching forward, you gently brushed his damp hair away from his forehead. "You need to rest, okay?" He blinked at you sleepily. "I'm fine." You rolled your eyes. "Liar, you can't even sit up properly." His lips twitched slightly, almost as if he wanted to smile, but he was too exhausted to manage it. "You need to freshen up," you said softly, helping him sit up. He blinked at you sluggishly. "I don't want to." "You have to. It will help you feel better." Jungkook sighed heavily, his head lolling slightly before he reluctantly nodded. Jungkook never acted like this. He was always strong and most of all cold, but now he was like a sleepy, stubborn child. You led him to the bathroom where he sat on the closet toilet lid, watching you with half-lidded eyes. You made him brush his teeth. And you grabbed a clean towel, wet it with warm water, and gently wiped his face. He blinked at you slowly, his lips parting slightly. You don't have to do all this. I know, but I want to. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. Why? You paused, meeting his gaze. Because I care about you, Jungkook, you said softly. His lips parted slightly, but he didn't say anything. Instead, his gaze softened in a way you rarely saw. After wiping his face and neck, you ran your fingers through his damp hair, fixing the messy strands. They're all fresh now. He hummed in response, leaning his head against your shoulder. You sniffed. This was new. Jungkook never sought out physical comfort, not like this. Jungkook, you murmured, surprised. His voice was muffled against your shoulder. You are warm. A small smile crept onto your lips. Well, you are hot literally. You still have a fever. He groaned dramatically, his head still resting against you. I feel terrible. I know, you said gently, rubbing his back soothingly. That's why you need to rest. He didn't move for a moment, just stayed there, his body warm and heavy against yours. You should sleep, you said, adjusting the blanket over him. I will get you some medicines and breakfast. Jungkook hummed softly in response. You came downstairs and wanted to make soup for him. You stirred the pot of soup carefully, ensuring it couldn't stick to the bottom. He rarely got sick, and even when he did, he never let anyone take care of him. But today you were determined to make sure he rested properly. Just as you reached for the seasoning, you felt a small tug on your shirt. Startled, you turned around quickly, only to see Jungkook standing behind you. His messy hair covering part of his tired eyes, his lips slightly pouted, his cheeks were flushed from the fever, and he looked absolutely exhausted. Jungkook, you gasped, placing a hand on your chest. What are you doing here? You are supposed to be resting. He blinked at you slowly, his feverish eyes slightly droopy. I got bored. You blinked back. Bored? He nodded, rubbing his eyes like a child who had just woken up from a nap. You left me alone. Your heart melted a little. This was a completely different side of him. The same Jungkook who was always cold and distant, now acting like a clingy child just because he was sick. I was just came to make soup for you, but you were supposed to sleep. He stepped closer and leaned his forehead against your shoulder. You got shocked and frozen in your place. Couldn't sleep, he mumbled, his voice muffled against your skin. You signed and gently ran your fingers through his hair. Jungkook, you have a fever, you need to rest. But you weren't there. He winced softly, tightening his hold on your shirt. You bite your lip, trying not to smile at his unexpected clinginess. This was not the Jungkook you were used to. This was someone else entirely. The cold, distant man who barely spoke to you was suddenly seeking comfort like a small child. Come on, let's get you back to bed. He immediately shook his head. No, I want to stay here.